Hello, California, and welcome to this week's episode of Your Financial Compass, brought to you by the team of Bulman Wealth Group. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio, we have the founder, Chris Bulman, and financial advisor, Scott Bulman. Chris, Scott, I'm thrilled to be back with you. This is always such a great time. How are you guys doing this week?
We're good. We were talking movies with you before the show, and you referenced a chick flick. Chris and I were debating earlier Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. So I think if we just dive deep into that today, we'd be in good shape.
The car ride to the studio today involved those two actors, as well as Flat Earth Theory,
Aliens,
and then dinosaurs and men living together in the Bible.
Right.
So we covered quite a bit already.
Yeah.
It's never a dull moment here on the show. If you're new to us and new to Chris and Scott, we like to have a lot of fun. At the end of the day, this show is all about you. And one of the things that we want to talk about today is how you can supplement potentially your retirement income. The reality is so many Americans are afraid of running out of money in retirement. And a recent study showed that only 40% of Americans are actually confident that they're going to have enough to get them through. And so that's why we're going to be talking about some strategies today. I know this is something that you guys are both really passionate about doing, is helping folks really have a plan in place so that they can thrive in retirement, because that's really what it's about. So what is one way that folks can actually supplement their retirement income?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing, and we always allude back to this, is having a comprehensive financial plan. But within that plan, you're going to want to have income streams for life. When we're working, we have our paycheck, right? We get paid, taxes come out, we might put some in 401k, IRAs, things like that, pay for all the kids' sports and things, and hopefully there's enough to get to the next month.
Right.
But at least you know you're still working and you're going to have income that next month in those working years. Once we get into retirement, that's all finished. So as folks come in and talk to us about their concerns, a lot of it is the income. One of those ways is a pension. So pensions are good for folks because they can depend on that income kind of for the rest of their life. And then within pensions, I won't dig into it today, but within pensions you have, do you want to have a joint so that your spouse has income forever, or is it just yourself?
Right, so you can make the decision so that it'll last you for the rest of your life, but if it's structured a certain way, it can last the rest of your spouse's life as well.
So expected income, Social Security, pensions, things like that can be expected for the rest of your life. Those are always helpful and relieve some of the stress that's put on the rest of the retirement assets.
Well, and I think the reason why so many folks are feeling that stress now is that workplace pensions are very rare. I'm thankful enough, I'm married to a teacher, he has a pension, but a lot of companies have done away with pensions when they introduced, the 401k and such. So what can be done for folks who don't have a workplace pension? Yeah,
well, pensions were so much more common decades ago. I think 84% of people had them back in the early 80s. Now, 2022, a survey said, or a poll said 15%. So it's very, very uncommon at this point. And there is something to be said for perpetual income, as I call it, to know that a certain amount of income is coming in every month. Chris mentioned Social Security. So if we don't have a pension, there are ways to do it. There's various types of annuities. We could do several shows on them, but one of the annuities that is used from time to time is essentially you can take a portion of money, be it from a 401k, money that you have sitting in cash, you can put it into an annuity product, and then we always say the longer you sit and let it marinate or wait, kind of like Social Security, once you turn it on, it's going to pay you a certain income stream for the rest of your life, be it monthly or annually. And it's one of those tools where you can essentially run out of money, but you can't run out of income. Like you could put in $100 grand and it's going to pay you X amount, you turn it on in 5 years, it's going to pay you for 30 years. The longer you live, there's a point where the insurance company's paying you out of their own money. So obviously we don't know how long we're going to live, but if you have longevity on your side, these can really turn into a powerful tool.
Longevity is a new word.
Yes.
So
Longevity.
Longevity. There we go.
I didn't have enough coffee.
I knew what you meant.
Nuclear or
Where's my
nuclear?
coffee? Here it is. I should have drank more of this.
Well, it's interesting to bring up annuities because all three of us here at this desk know that annuities often get a really bad rap. They have a negative connotation for a lot of people. But what's interesting is I've never heard someone say that they hate their workplace pension or that they hate their Social Security check. And what they don't realize is those two things are actually types of annuities.
Yeah. I've heard people say they hate their workplace, maybe not their workplace
but not
pension.
Pension, right.
Yeah, I mean, annuities, so they're insurance-based financial products. They're They're protected and insured by the claims paying ability of the insurance company, and then also the state to up to a certain percentage. So annuities can be a good way. We're going to talk about the good and the bad about annuities here in the next segment, but annuities can be a good way to secure part of that retirement income if we need to. So, and again, you're basically trading a lump of money. You could trade it to a bank and get a CD. I'll trade you $100,000 and you give me 4% for 3 years. Or you can give it to an insurance company. I'll give you $100,000 and maybe they'll give you 4% for 5 years if it's a fixed annuity. If it's a index equity annuity or equity indexed or fixed index annuity, they'll give you different ranges from 0 to maybe 10 or 15 or 7 or whatever it might be. Lots of different types of annuities. And if you don't know what type of annuity you currently hold, we can certainly help with that as well.
Absolutely, because I know you review a lot of existing annuity contracts for folks, right?
Yeah, it's like, I always say it's like televisions. When my wife and I got married, this 45-inch TV was $1,300. Now you can get that for $300. They change and evolve over time, and the annuities are the same. And sometimes, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but as rates change, like interest rates, as we know, are high now, it actually, one nice byproduct is with higher interest rates, these annuity rates can improve. Companies might pay bonuses, companies might pay a higher par or cap rate, which we'll talk about later. Or if you have an old annuity, say it's 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years old, sometimes it makes sense to see, is there a new improved version with different advancements in the features of it, or just better rates altogether. And it's always, we say it's like refinancing your home. When interest rates were good, sometimes it's worth looking into refinancing your annuity if it makes sense.
Right, and therefore potentially refinancing your retirement,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and stay in tune, stay in touch with the investments that you hold. And if you haven't talked to that advisor that put you in the annuity or sold you an annuity, we can certainly help with that. We love to help people with that. If you had a CD that was paying 2%, but now they're paying 5%, wouldn't you want to trade that up to a 5% CD? It's so obvious, and it works exactly the same with annuities.
Well, I think, as I think about this segment, what we've talked about already, really what an annuity can do is create a personal pension for someone, right? I mean, that's what it's about. It's creating another guaranteed stream of income that can last you for the rest of your life. And so if someone's watching and wondering and going, I wonder if this could be a good fit for me, what would you say to them about exploring this option?
We would say you can, scan the code below. You can call our office, check out our website, and we can have that discussion. Obviously, there's a lot more to financial planning that we do, but this is a very specialized area where if you like the idea of a pension and want to talk more about it, if you have an old annuity, you don't know what kind of annuity it is, and you want to review it, that's stuff we can look through and see if there's modifications or tweaks to be made.
Absolutely. Well, I know we have a lot more to get into. I'm excited to continue this conversation with you. Scott, Chris, thank you. To our viewers at home, if you would like to be able to schedule your time to come in and meet with Chris and Scott and the team of Bulman Wealth, it's completely complimentary. For no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how they can help and serve you. To claim your opportunity to come in, all you need to do is call that number you see on the bottom of your screen, 888-970-4685. Or if you'd rather not talk to someone right now, but you do have your smartphone handy, if you simply pull it out, you can open up that camera app, just point, click, and scan that QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Bulman Wealth Group will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary visit that way as well. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, I'm going to ask Chris and Scott to dive deeply into the pros and cons of annuities and help you determine and answer the question, could an annuity potentially be right for you? Stay with us.
I became a financial advisor coming out of the tough times of the tech bubble in the late 90s, early 2000s. Moved to California, uprooted my life, changed everything, and then 9/11 happened the first week in this industry. I was prepared already to help people from tough times coming out of the tech bubble, but what we didn't expect is there were 3 years in a row when I started of the market dropping. That really impacted my whole career. It crafted and created how we manage money. We don't want our clients to ever lose like that. And so everything we do is built on protection. The goal of our practice and the people that we meet with is to remove the fear and uncertainty that we all face. And it goes back to those first years in the market.
I was a sportscaster on television. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. In TV, you bounce around and went to Mississippi and worked at the NBC station there and covered, college football's big, NFL's big, all that stuff. And a guy I knew relatively well in a different state decided to get out of TV, and in this opportunity I always enjoyed finance and money, and it seemed really exciting. I like to communicate to folks and feel like I can communicate well. It was such a fresh, kind of different career than what I was used to that it was exciting.
We go into every meeting with no place to get. We're there to meet with you, to discover your needs, find out where you are at that point, and how we can help you build and craft that plan for the future.
Welcome back. You're watching Your Financial Compass, brought to you by the team of Bulman Wealth Group. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Chris Bulman and Scott Bulman. We've been talking today about strategies and ways for you to supplement your retirement income, specifically by using the financial tool of an annuity. And in the last segment, I know you all gave a pretty high level about what an annuity is and how it works. We're going to dive more deeply into that. But I do want to point out, you guys said this is just one piece that you offer. And I think that's the difference. Because you are independent, you have every type of financial tool available at your disposal to serve your clients and their needs. But an annuity can be one of those powerful tools. And so I'm excited to hear more about the benefits and what you feel like our viewers need to understand about using this specific tool.
Well, Chris is always the optimist. He gets mad at me for being pessimistic. I would just say I'm a realist, or the voice of reason. So why don't you talk about the good stuff, then I'll talk about the bad stuff. How about that?
First, I just want to say, if people say that I don't smile enough on TV, you have no idea how hard it is to smile with cheeks this big, because you have to push them out, and I mean, it's the whole thing.
It's a whole workout for your face.
I'm working on smiling more.
Looking
TV.
at the right camera.
So, annuities or any financial instrument, we always say is going to have a good and a bad about it. If anyone's telling you that they have the perfect financial solution for you, put all your money in index universal life insurance or whole life, and you remove all the risk, and this is the only thing, you should run, because there are lots of different things that could be a good fit for you. And so we take into consideration your personal situation, your personal risk tolerance. Some people come in. I had one gentleman one time came in. He had about $15 million. About $8 million of it was in one stock.
Wow.
So I said to him in our meeting, which any sane person would consider, is that a little too much to have in one stock? And he said, Chris, if I lost all $8 million, I would still have 7. I will be fine. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting way to look at it. But that was his perspective. And it's who am I to tell him that's not the right perspective? So we're there to kind of gauge, to give you ideas, to keep you between those navigational buoys of too much risk and not enough risk, and how much growth, all those things. So that's our role, but we never push in a certain direction. We're there to enlighten you, to explain how it works. Annuities have good and bad.
Right.
Just this week, and this happens quite often, roll back the clock 5 years ago, 6 years ago, somebody's heading into retirement, and they want an annuity, and someone put them in an annuity, guarantees this great rate of return for income, so they get a guaranteed income, like we were talking about in the last segment, for the rest of their life. But it turns out they already have 2 pensions. They already get $13,000 a month for the rest of their life, and they don't need any more pensions. And now they're in an annuity that's not built for growth, but built for income, of which they don't need, and of which they're paying fees for. So they're in the wrong. It would be like if you were a family of 6, like me, with 4 kids, and you bought a 2-seater. How's that going to work out? Right? It's just not the right vehicle. And so it's the same thing. It can be the same thing with annuities. It can be the same thing if you're 75 years old and you put all your money in Tesla stock. It's probably not the right thing, especially over the last 3 years, right? So it's important to understand what are the good, what are the bad about whatever product you're looking at, and how does it fit into your risk tolerance and your overall investment.
Well, since Chris didn't talk about good or bad of annuities like you had asked him to, so here's the good. As he said, there's good and bad with everything. The good with annuities, say, as we already discussed, you can create a pension, or you can use an annuity as kind of like a bucket portion of your portfolio, where you're never going to lose value if the stock market's down. The trade-off is you don't earn as much. So sometimes we might partition off a section of someone's portfolio and say, hey, this percentage is never going to lose, we just won't make as much. So that's a pro. Another pro is generally there's no fees with it if you set it up properly. And another is each year when it hits its anniversary, if it earns any interest, it locks in those gains. So say we put in $100,000, a year later we earn 5%, we're at 105, that's the new baseline, locks in that 5,000 of gains, it can never go below it. So, I mean, there's more pros, but those are the ones that stand out. The cons are you're not going to earn as much. Another one is liquidity. How available is that money? Say we're using a 10-year annuity and you put a certain amount of money in there, you can't access all of that money without a penalty. A lot of these annuities will be 10% you can access. So say
they have the surrender charges.
That's correct.
Right?
So I always talk to people, it's like, well, I love that annuity, I want to put all my money there. No, A, that's just poor planning. 2, something's going to happen where you might need more than what that annuity can offer. So we just use it as, when it's a fit, as a portion of a portfolio. And so, another is, like I said, the lower rate of return. Your
money's tied up.
Your money's tied up to some extent.
If you need the money, then you need to be aware of that.
And the last thing, Chris referenced this, is annuities are either income related or a safer bucket. They don't, in my opinion, you cannot combine them. In football, they always say if you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you have none. So we have a lot of people that come in, as Chris said, well, I've got all these pensions and then I have an annuity that's going to create a pension. Well, that's the wrong thing. You can't have a pension annuity and an income or an accumulation annuity. They're not designed to be the same thing. So it's understanding what you're in and how is it presented to you.
Yes.
You see that a lot where I just question the judgment of, why did they put you in that? Did they not look at the rest of your situation?
Well, I think that's part of the reason why annuities can get a bad rap. It's because of how they're marketed, right? Yes. I mean, there's so much disinformation out there, and then on top of that, I think a lot of folks are skittish about annuities because they've heard bad things, specifically about fees, commissions. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is annuities have become almost like politics, like Trump or Hillary or Obama or Bush. Or
very divisive, right?
Very divisive. And the interesting thing is, you don't need to have an opinion for someone else if they should have an annuity because they're in a different life situation than you. We have people that come in, a particular client I can think of, they have over $20 million in real estate income coming in from rentals every month. They don't want to be in the stock market. They can afford, they don't need any more income, so they don't need an income annuity, but they also don't want to have any volatility in their portfolio. So in that case, if you don't want any volatility and you want to have protection of your assets and you want to have tax deferral, and an annuity, a growth annuity is a great place to be for them. Someone else may come in and say, I don't want my money tied up, I want to have liquidity all the time, and I want to have the opportunity to make 20% when the market's up. And I'm okay if I lose 20% when the market's down. Well, that person is not meant for an annuity, right? So it's important to understand that when you're looking at an investment product, we're going to talk about what's right for you. We're going to talk about how they all work, and we're going to identify the investment strategy that works for you and helps you sleep at night. Because just like people will vote for Trump or Biden, people will like annuities or not like annuities, and it's okay both ways.
We don't have an agenda with that, which is nice. It's like, if we have someone that comes in, I don't want annuities, I hate them, and they have a good reason why, guess what? They're off the table. We're not trying to push annuities on someone if it's not a fit. So
but just to add to that, if we look at the last few years in the stock market, if you were in a bond portfolio versus an annuity, you would have lost a lot of money. Had you been in annuities versus bonds, you would have never taken a step back. So we use annuities generally as a replacement for the bond side of the portfolio because we want to have some part of that portfolio for people who want to not be able to go back at all. And even bonds can lose 20%, as we saw the past few years.
Well, and I bet that gives a lot of people a peace of mind to know that they're not ever going to be pushed into something that's not right for you. It's about suitability. And I think the benefit and the beautiful thing about you all being independent is you don't have anyone over you telling you have to push a certain product, right? I think that's why sometimes folks can end up, and unfortunately, in an annuity that may not be the best thing for them because of who they bought it from, what that company was pushing. Maybe that was the only product that company had to offer.
If everything you have is if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And there's certain advisors that's all they can do. So it's a fit for every situation. Guess what? It doesn't work that way. And that's poor planning.
So with the Financial Compass Review that I know this is completely complimentary for our television viewers, and you guys are excited to offer it again this week, talk a little bit about what folks can expect when they come in and meet with you for that first time.
They can expect fun. I think we have a lot of fun, usually at my expense, but we have a lot of fun. And but it's fun to identify what the dreams and goals are for each individual. And I mean, I could tell so many stories. One gentleman had come in with his wife. It's been several months now. He was so nervous. He literally never sat down in our entryway, just paced and paced because he had never, it was way outside of his comfort zone, never been in a financial planning office before. We have fresh baked cookies, we have popcorn, we have cappuccinos, we have anything you want. We just want to make you comfortable in our living room. By the time he got done, with our meeting, and then the second meeting, third, he comes in, he kicks his feet up, he's relaxed. We have fun together. That's number one. We want to enjoy our clients. But we want to have a plan in place. We want to know what are your goals, what are your risk tolerance, what is a financial plan that's going to help you sleep better at night. That's the one we want. That's going to get you to and through retirement, provide the legacy you want to provide to your children, but also help you sleep at night.
Wonderful. Well, Chris Scott, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, if you would like that complimentary written financial plan to help you potentially sleep better at night, that is the goal. And we invite you to do that by calling the number that you see on the bottom of your screen, 888-970-4685. Or again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and that will get you connected as well. More on this week's edition of Your Financial Compass right after this. Have you considered refinancing your retirement? When interest rates are low, you might be able to refinance your homes, your car loans, and even your credit card rates because it could help you keep more of your own money each month. But what happens when interest rates go up? It may make sense to refinance your retirement. Higher interest rates could provide income opportunities that you may not be aware of. What works for your portfolio during low interest rates may not work for you in a high interest rate environment. So don't look down at today's higher interest rates. Instead, find out if a retirement refi could work better for you. Call the number you see here or scan the QR code below to schedule your complimentary Refi Your Retirement review today. Welcome back to Your Financial Compass. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Chris Bulman and Scott Bulman. We've been talking today about one of the ways that you can potentially supplement your retirement income, of course, using the tool of an annuity. And I really appreciate the balanced discussion that you all have provided of the pros and the cons and helping folks understand it's not always right for everybody, right? There's different considerations, and I know you've already shared some of the questions folks need to consider in answering the question of could an annuity be right for me? Who do you think is not a good candidate for that type of product?
I think someone that's probably a bit younger. So I'm 43, almost 44. Chris is 64. It'd be a better fit for him.
No, he lies.
He's just turned 51. So I think sometimes age plays a factor, especially if you're not going to be retiring for 20 years or so. It might not be a fit because you need a little bit more growth. Might be for someone, Chris referenced this earlier, that they want liquidity. They have a certain amount of money and they're going to need access to it for whatever reason, be it to buy another property or what have you. It's not a fit there. So if there's liquidity issues, or someone that just came in very skeptical and they've done the research, and even after you talk through the pros and cons, if they're really convinced they don't want it, okay, then we'll find another tool. So, and that's the beauty of being able to offer all these different things is again, we don't have a prerogative. We're not trying to force someone where they don't want to go. I don't ever want to put someone into a plan and then they're wondering like a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, a year later, what did you put me in? Because they can be very complicated. Like there's a type of annuity we didn't get into today called a variable annuity. So they have these prospectuses. It's like generally an annuity you have like 5-6 pages. And this person came in, they're like, well, this advisor showed me this. It was 650 pages.
Whoa.
It was like the tax code. It's like, how are you going to be able to understand
it?
In small print.
Right?
And I read
So
it all.
I read it all and explained it to Scott.
We said, ChatGPT, break this down for us. But they can be very complex, some of them more so than not. So it's also understanding what you're in and making sure that, like, what have I done? Where did I put my money?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the danger with variable annuities, I think they're the ones that often give all the other annuities a bad rap because they typically do have high fees, and not only, you can get some of the market upside, but then you're also subjected to the downside, and you still have to pay that fee even if you lose money. Yeah.
The annuities are, I always tell people, think of, if you have $5 million or $2 million, choose your number. Divide it in half. Put half your money in an investment that you can't lose anything, and put the other half in the market. Now rewind the clock to 2008.
Right.
Had you lost 30, 40% in 2008, how long would it have taken to get that half of your money back to just where you started from, right? And then the other half, you put into an annuity, let's say a fixed index annuity or equity index annuity, that never lost a dollar. And then when the market came back up, when the market's down 40%, as it came back up, this side never lost a dollar, but it made money all the way back up as well.
Right.
Which do you prefer?
Yep.
And some people say, well, I like that. I like 50-50. I like half my money to be able to, have these big swings, and I'm okay with that. The other half I want safe. Some people say, usually, like the wife might look at the husband and go, I want 75% in this side where we can't lose money.
Right.
I've spent my whole life watching you work, and we're supposed to be stress-free now, in retirement. And so they want more on the safer side, the annuity side. So, but it's not my call. This
Right.
is all we do is pose questions to make you think about your money in a different way.
Yep.
And we help you identify where you want to get to.
Absolutely.
And one good point there is a lot of times when we think about investments in our money, we're always thinking about growth, the growth mindset, get the best return. One area where an annuity can play a good factor is when we don't lose anything, in a year like 2022 when the S&P 500 was down 20%, if our annuity dropped 0 that year, well, there's a value of that. What do they say? 0 is our hero. Maybe that's a bit dramatic, but sometimes it's not always about the gains, but what we didn't lose.
Yes.
And that's another area where
Right.
an annuity can potentially play a factor, or a positive factor is when the market goes down, because it does, 3 out of every 10 years at least.
Right.
In those years, you win with an annuity by not losing.
And that's the key. Well, you mentioned age. Just real quick, I know we're coming to the end of today's show. When is the ideal time, if an annuity is a good fit for someone, what age range are we talking about where folks want to start considering this option?
Yeah, it's a good question because there's an age range where you probably don't want to think about it prior to, and there's also an age where you're probably too old to be thinking about it because of the surrender period. So I think the key spot is, depending on if you really want a pension and you don't have one yet, maybe early 50s, even late 40s, if the goal is to build a pension. Otherwise, if we're not talking about even taking any income out of our portfolio for 20 years, well, then we don't need an annuity.
Right.
Unless you just are completely averse to any kind of a loss in the market.
Right.
And there are plenty of you out there that don't want to have a single, even a dollar loss. That's another area that an annuity could fit for you.
It just shows that this is why folks need a retirement plan that is tailor-made for them, right? And that is what you all specialize in doing.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, Scott, thank you so much for this time and your valuable insight, and thank you so much for joining us. Again, that number to call to receive your complimentary financial compass review from the team of Bulman Wealth is there on the bottom of your screen, 888-970-4685. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time here at Your Financial Compass.